Welcome back to Voices of Vitality, where we highlight not only the people who are choosing to stay active, independent, and engaged, but also the incredible professionals helping to make that possible. Today, we're talking about something that many people think about, but often avoid: downsizing and transitioning into the next chapter of life. But what if this transition could actually be exciting, freeing, and maybe even a little bit empowering? Today, I'm joining Laura Kelso, founder of Kelso Homes and the creator of Grand Rapids Savvy Seniors, an incredible resource for helping older adults make informed, confident decisions about their present and their future. Laura, I am so excited to have you here.
Jenna, I'm thrilled to be here. I think that one, I know what you do and the way that you work, and I feel like we're so well aligned in so many ways. And just the opportunity to kind of get the word out about the resources that are out there that people may not know about, I think is very important.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait for people to hear what your resource is. So tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got into working specifically with older adults.
Yeah, great. So I've actually been in real estate since 2015. And I was always very hands-on with my clients. I think part of that just simply comes from being a mom of three. And I think oftentimes as moms, we tend to be those natural caregivers anyway. And then as I transitioned into real estate, I found that style just was how I wanted to care for my clients. So in the sense of, real estate, there's a lot of different things that have to be done when you're selling a house that aren't directly real estate related, but they are part of the tasks. And most of the time they're completed by homeowners. But as people get older, the tasks that would lead them to success in real estate are very, very difficult for them, especially depending on what their what type of resources and support system they may or may not have. And so I just found myself drawn to working with older adults and really thinking, gosh, this is the style that I have. And I think that they would really appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. So what is it? Is there anything specific that opened your eyes to these unique challenges that our older adults face when it comes to making some of these housing decisions?
No. So really, this came long before I was ever in real estate working with my mom. So my mom is now 88, and she's now happily in her third marriage, because a lot of times with older adults, when they're living till 100, they have a few very significant marriages in there. Well, anyway, when she was married to her second husband, and this was probably close to 20 years ago now, and I had three younger children, and I was working full time, and I got a call one morning that her husband hadn't woken up, and I headed over to her condo, and lo and behold, he had had a brain aneurysm in the night and went from essentially perfectly healthy in his 70s to dying within 24 hours.
Oh,
and it was truly just trying to navigate as the only daughter, and being, we lived just minutes apart, trying to help her through the next steps of where was she going to live, and taking back over her finances, because, as naturally in a lot of different couples, he had handled at that point all of her finances and those types of records. And so it was eye-opening as I tried to help her, how simply overwhelming that whole process was. And I've always, been very business oriented and very organized. And I 100% was overwhelmed. And I remember just thinking this huge thought of, oh my gosh, I'm in over my head. I'm trying to help my mom, and I feel overwhelmed. I would do anything for a guide. Who can I go to that could guide me through this process? And at that time, I really knew of no one.
Now, were you in real estate at the time?
So this was about 10 years before I got into real estate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
as I got into real estate, and just I feel like there was this chain of events that just started to lead me towards being drawn to work with older people. And then through working with my mom, and a lot of different things that, involve her, um, just realizing the challenges of older adults and how they change as they get older, and how so many of the things that she once took care of, because she was in her home over 60 years, and we recently transitioned her out of it in the last 2 years. But in those last few years, anything that happened with that house was not being taken care of by her. It was me that was getting those calls. So I really recognized, just that idea that, there often comes a point where even older people who are very take charge, very capable in their younger lives, they get to a point where physically it's simply not possible for them to do the things that they once did with their lives, with their homes. And then it starts to either not get done, or it starts to fall on others who are supporting them. So it really just depends on, what that situation is.
Absolutely. And I bet either way, it's probably really stressful because I know we see a lot of the times we'll say, do you mind if we call your daughter about this issue? And they're like, no, no, don't add one more thing to her plate. Please, please, please don't call her. But then, so there's that stress, but then that other stress, yeah, of like letting everything go. There's always just in the back of your head, you're thinking, okay, well, stuff's piling up in the basement, or the dusting's not getting done, or the stuff in the yard is not getting taken care of. Like both incredibly stressful.
Right, right. And I think that so many of the adults that we work with, some are still very, very organized, and they're very smart, and they recognize that, maybe some of these things, that they shouldn't be getting up on the chair to change the light bulb.
Oh my gosh, that's like my big soapbox. Like, can we
getting
not?
up
You need to stop
on
that.
the roof to clean out the gutters or whatnot. But I mean, they want to do these things. And I mean, I recognize that even now in my 50s. I mean, my husband and I are in my mid 50s, and there are things that I did and have done, over the years that were frankly just stupid, in terms of painting ceilings on ladders where I'm, leaning over 5 feet to get a corner and things like that. Knowing that it was not very smart, but also in the back of my mind saying, well, I'm capable. I can do this. There's not going to be a problem. And the fact is that sometimes there is a problem. All it takes is one slight movement that is off, where all of a sudden all your independence can change. And I got to experience that on the ice back in 2018, and went from, completely independent, packed schedule to, major surgery 2 days later, a plate, screws, wires that were holding my ankle together, and basically non-weight bearing on the couch for the next 10 weeks.
Oh, God.
And I think that, I'm a firm believer that God puts you in certain situations. And that was just when I was beginning to really want to focus on seniors. And I think that honestly, it was his way of telling me, okay, you say you want to work with seniors. I just want to give you a small example of the things that these wonderful independent people deal with on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh, I love that perspective. That's great because it's so true, right? I mean, I think that a lot of us are risk takers in life, and no matter what you're doing, it's always really risky, but it's just the ramifications are different when you're older, right? Like you at 50 years old can be laid up for 10 weeks because you slipped on the ice, and you can come back from that. But in 30 years, do you have the functional reserve? Do you have that backup plan, physical backup plan to be able to recover from that? I mean, the majority of people just don't, because it is really, really, really hard to get your insides to have enough reserve to be able to come back from something like that as we get
Yeah.
older, for sure.
Yeah.
So what is it that you love most about the work that you do, Laura?
Well, I think that it's very, very rewarding. So when I went into prior to real estate, I owned a business, or worked a business with direct sales while I had young children, and while they were growing. I did that for about 14 years, and during that time, I did a lot of presentations, like close to 800 presentations, and I had such a blast always teaching people. I mean, it was sales, but my thought was always, I don't really care if you buy my product. I just want to have fun. I want to show you things that have helped make my life easier. And if that makes your life easier too, that's great. And so when I got into real estate, I was looking for an opportunity to just figure out what was my niche going to be. And being passionate about real estate, and being passionate about education, all of a sudden I started to see these things meld together in, working with seniors, and how could I authentically build a business while truly helping people? Because at the end of the day, that is what drives me. And the people that I work with, they are so incredibly grateful. And that's, they recognize that they are smart and independent and all these things that they always have been, but they also are starting to see that, gosh, realistically, this is getting overwhelming for me, and you're offering me something that I didn't know existed that will empower me to make these next steps. And so, these clients are just, they're fun and they're amazing. And I feel like we are able to provide them the wings to give them options that they may not have had if they didn't have a support system around them that can carry them through a big transition.
I absolutely love that framing, because it feels like what you do is not just transactional real estate, right? Like sell a house, buy a house, sell a house, move. It's more of life transition coaching, and I think that that's so important for aging adults, because a lot of this stuff is new, right? Like you spend your whole life upgrading, right? Like you go from the starter home to the next big thing, to then the next big thing. And then you have 60, 70 years plus of memories.
Mm-hmm.
That is not easy to let go of, but you guys help along that transition so beautifully.
Right. Well, yeah, what I like to emphasize is, one, real estate, you throw a rock, you hit 6 realtors, and about 3 of them are going to be really good. 3 of them may not be so good. But there are certainly a lot of excellent people out there. But the difference is they don't do what we do. A late life move is so different, and it's not just as you said, it's not just a transaction. We have to look at what are the surrounding circumstances and decisions that this client will have to make this happen. And that involves a whole, emotional aspect. And as you say, there's so many memories. Oftentimes we're dealing with clients who are simultaneously working through the death of a spouse or a significant illness. So we're working into that aspect of they're going through grief. They're going through a certain amount of grief because a lot of our people, they didn't plan on leaving their homes. They don't really desire to leave their homes, but they're recognizing the fact that that it's probably the right thing to do. And this move never gets easier. It only gets harder as they age. And then there's the legal aspect of this. We're often dealing with estates and trusts and things like that where there's a lot of documentation and a lot of technical things. We're dealing with major of, how can we move and purchase a property? Can we do that before we sell our property? If we're looking at a buy-in into a senior community, how is that going to happen? So strategically, there's a lot involved on that financial aspect. And then we're dealing with the stuff, which is a whole nother realm of, physical and emotional work to be done by somebody. And,
Mhm.
and then there's often homes that, some are in amazing, beautiful condition when we meet with our clients. We have others that have a tremendous amount of deferred maintenance for various reasons. And it's not uncommon that we have somebody downsizing from a house where they have not been in parts of that house either at all or very often for a number of years. So you have attics
Wild.
and basements and things like that that are filled with stuff. And when we move back some of those things, that's when we tend to find, walls that may have been leaking for years, or things that, that seller would have no way of knowing because they're simply not using that part of the home anymore. And
Yeah.
so we start to see things that, infestations and, if I could name all the animals that I've come in,
Oh, gall.
it's a pretty large list. And so when we talk about what do I do as, at Kelso Homes versus a normal realtor, we're constantly taking off one hat and putting on another. So it's like, oh, it's time to take off our financial hat. And right now my client is crying. So we're going to put on our social work hat, and we're going to really help them through this moment so that we can move on to the next thing. And then, oh, you know what? We found some stuff in the basement that is a little bit scary. I'm going to put on my cleaning lady hat and see what we can do about this. And it's not uncommon for us to crawl on roofs or in crawl spaces and things like that to really start to see like, hey, what's going on with this house? What's it going to take to have this client be successful, not only throughout the transition, allowing them to stay healthy, but also then serve them in a way where we can truly address any issues that are in the house to help them have a successful sale as quickly as possible, and also getting the most money for the property that they can.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's clearly a very emotional decision for individuals. So when you're meeting with somebody for the first time, or when you're even talking to people, out in the community and they hear the word downsizing, what is kind of their usual instinct gut feeling with that word?
It's a mixed bag, because certainly I think we have so many people who we start with and they tell us, oh no, I'm never leaving. This is my home. This is where I feel most comfortable. They're like, downsize. Why would I downsize? And then one thing I just like to emphasize is that we call ourselves downsizing experts, but we're really right sizing experts. So in the sense that, my husband and I just transitioned out of our home that we were in for 20 years, raising our 3 children. We went to a home that is about a third bigger in Lowell on acreage on the Flat River. So people are, oh, you downsized? I'm like, no, we upsized. But the thing
I love that.
yeah, but it's this house that will take us through the next, 20 years or more. And it's different. It's not necessarily smaller, but it's set up differently. It's a ranch. I no longer have the stairs to deal with. My laundry is on the first floor now. Things like that we didn't have in our other house. And so part one, when I'm talking with any kind of person who's even considering that, we start with, hey, tell me about what's working well for you, and tell me about the things that may not be working so well, or what you'd like to accomplish through this meeting. And I have some that are like, I'm so over the yard maintenance. I mean, they look at that idea of downsizing or right sizing and they see freedom, and they are so excited, and they see all the things that their life could be if they chose to make this big leap. And then I have the others that really go into it with, we absolutely don't want to do this, but we've hit a point where we know it's necessary and it's not going to get easier. And so that's, they come to us with a lot of sadness.
Yeah. So when you have someone that comes to you with that sadness and they see this right sizing, I love that word, by the way, as more of a loss, how do
Mhm.
you help them shift their mindset into this is less of a loss and it's actually quite an opportunity at this point?
Mhm. Yeah, I think so much of that does depend on mindset. And what we really find is that when older adults can start to see this as, gosh, I didn't really want to do this, and it wasn't really what I planned, but I do see the fact that overall this is the best decision. And when they can, and we just start to talk through the idea that, yeah, we your house, and one, it starts with our respect for those feelings. So just being able to say, I'm not coming in here just as a realtor to assess the value of your house. I want to know you. I want to know what you're feeling right now. I want to hear what things are keeping you up at night. I want to, if it's a couple, I want to hear, do you have differing feelings on this? Oftentimes we have one part of a couple that is, would love to be in a senior community for all the different social aspects and the ease of, lack of just lack of maintenance, and yet the other part of that, the other spouse is simply not having it, doesn't want to leave. So that's challenging too. So we just start by really seeing where that client themselves is starting out on that spectrum, and as they start to accept it and accept that this is a wise decision, even if it wasn't their original plan, then we start to work through, hey, let's start planning on what your life is going to look like, and figure out the very best place that's going to give you what's most important to you, and make sure that that's financially accessible to them. And then we where they're going to go, then we start working out the logistics, which is very, very complicated. And that's the part that often, keeps people from making this leap, so to speak, is that they know it's going to be hard. They don't necessarily know how hard it's going to be,
Yeah.
but they just simply see it as an overwhelming task, and they just want to procrastinate in that decision. And so they just keep kind of kicking it down the road until all of a sudden, oftentimes an event happens, usually a health event, and then they recognize the fact that, oh boy, now I'm in over my head. Now I'm starting to lose my option of choices, because we do really talk to people about the fact that, listen, no, by making no decision, you are making a decision. You are possibly putting yourself into a corner where you will lose the ability to make these decisions for yourself and drive the bus, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I know that in our population of clients that we see, my big push is for literally every single one of my clients, whether they are playing pickleball on the weekends or whether they are needing assistance to transfer from the bed to the wheelchair. I start having the conversation with them early on, just saying, hey, listen, the reality of life is you could have an injury or an illness that could completely derail your fourth quarter plan. So it's always really nice to have a backup plan, because the move itself, the downsize itself, is so stressful in and of itself. But like, you can have a plan on the other side. Now, maybe that plan isn't like, I know exactly what house I want to move into that's smaller, but maybe that plan is like going to look at, senior apartment facilities or assisted living facilities or places that are more manageable for you. Because the truth is that I think is something that's so hard for me to convey to my current clients is the generation right now that are in their 80s and 90s view assisted livings or senior apartments as the nursing homes that they saw when their parents were there. So they picture this little old lady facing a wall in a wheelchair, holding onto a baby, rocking back and forth and crying for help. Like, that is not happening anymore. Like,
No.
we have clients in these senior living facilities where like their schedules are more packed than my schedule as a full-time working mom with 2 little kids in too many activities, right? They're like, Jenna, listen, you can't come at this time because I got this and I got cornhole and I got arts and crafts. And like, so many of these places have so many activities and they're also different, right? They all have their own personality. And so we always tell people, like, go make this decision or go make this plan before you have to make the decision, because when you have to make the decision, you're essentially screwed, right? Because you're pigeonholed to what's available at that time.
Yes.
Because the reality is you may not be able to go home.
Right.
If your spouse or your family cannot physically care for you in the home, you can't go home.
Right.
So you need to have a plan B, essentially.
Yes.
And that is what I like push really hard for my people is, you don't have to use plan B, but have plan B.
Yes. And that was really the big, starting point behind the idea of GR Savvy Seniors, is that when older adults can be informed and empowered on all these different things, that they can have the information that they need to make the best decisions. And as we present on everything from, legal planning, financial planning to, health and wellness and all these other things, it's never from a perspective of this is what you should do. I'm never one to tell anyone, even as a realtor, I meet with people all the time with the idea and goal of how long can we safely age in place and what are the resources that are out there to help me do that. And we come from that perspective of, I'm here to open your mind to the options and point you to the places where you can learn all of the different things that you need to know to make the best decision. And I want you to have a plan A and I want you to have a plan B in case something changes and plan A no longer works. And by that time, if they have already toured all the different options, whether it's a condo, a senior living community. And I just, talk about the fact that you're exactly right. The senior living communities today, there's such a wide variety that truly people need to explore all the different options that are out there to see, gosh, I didn't think that I would like a community, but boy, I didn't realize that they had this. And I didn't realize that several of my friends had moved here and all these different things that, and they may not know that until they do that exploration for themselves. And it's truly important also that they are doing it themselves, as opposed to, this is one thing that I've experienced being an adult bossy daughter. It's very easy for me all day long to tell my, my very intelligent mother, you need to do X, Y, Z. And having it because she's a grown woman with her own opinions and thoughts and things that are important to her. And that's one thing that I find consistently with my older clients is they don't want to be told. They don't want to be talked to like children or, oh, she's so cute. She's such a sweet little old lady. No, these are people with thoughts and dreams and goals of their own, and they want to be treated as such. And when they have the ability to come and learn on their own terms and think through the options and ask the questions and, be able to voice concerns that they have and all those things, and then come to the realization themselves that, gosh, you know what? I can financially afford this by using some of these financial tools that have been presented. I have people that can help me make this transition. I don't have to do this alone. And when they wake up on the other side of that, I often find that there's this huge sigh of relief, even if they didn't think they were going to like it, that
Mhm.
all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, this apartment looks great. I just moved 2 days ago, and your person put away my whole kitchen just like we had discussed, and they put my favorite chair facing the direction so that I, but we're really trying to recreate that space for them after they move, based on what's most important to them. And also that thought of, well, our homes are important to us and they have a lot of memories. What really makes up a home is the people in it and the
Mhm.
things that are closest to you that really bring you joy. And those things can be transitioned anywhere,
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely. So I know this just from conversations that you and I have had, and this is one of a big concerns of individuals that I see out in the community. But the fact that they have so much stuff and then they're
Mhm,
going to a smaller
mhm,
space. So can you walk us through your process with Kelso
sure.
Homes of how you kind of help them wrap their head around like
Mhm.
what they have now and then what that might look like in their new space?
Right. Right. Well, one thing that we have come to be very good at is taking a super systematic approach. Now, it doesn't mean that we're taking the emotions out of it, but we start with a very big plan because, one of the things that trip people up during this type of a move is that they don't recognize all the various steps that are involved, and it's important to do those steps often in particular orders. So we begin, where would they like to go? What's going to be the best house, apartment, move in with their kids, whatever that looks like. What is that place going to be? And then we move on to, okay, let's talk about first the larger things that you want to bring with you. We walk through a client's house with them where they're literally pointing out, okay, I want to bring my couch, I want to bring these 3 chairs, I want to bring this table. And we actually take pictures and measurements of all of those items so that we can start to get the bigger picture of, these are all the things that you desire to take with you. Then we're getting a space plan for their new location. So if they're moving into, a condo or a unit at a senior community, we're getting the measured space plan of that community. And then we're starting to develop a space plan for them on how are their favorite items going to fit into that new space. Because we want to be able to, one, never move things that aren't going to fit. And we want that client to be able to totally visualize, oh my gosh, I didn't think I would have room for my desk or my favorite table or whatever, but look, you've arranged everything in a way that I will. And so oftentimes they're excited that these things will fit. Now, sometimes we recognize the fact that, listen, you can't bring the couch and all these. So we really point them to, hey, we've got to make some decisions here. So first we're dealing with the big stuff. And then once we have a basic plan in place for the big stuff, on the side, we're also tackling the smaller items. So we're encouraging them to go through their house and not to deal with all the stuff at that point. We're really encouraging them to focus only on what are the things that you're going to be bringing to your new place. What are the things that you use on a regular basis or that you truly love for whatever reason that it brings you joy, whether that's sentimental or practical, doesn't matter. We're going to talk through all those things. And I like to tell people that this is like shopping in your own house. If you had to go back through, and if you were shopping in an expensive store where there was a lot of wonderful things, but you couldn't afford to buy them all, that's a little bit what this is like. So they're going back through their own home and all of their treasures that have been built up over the years, and they're determining what are the things that are really going to serve me in this next phase of life. And so we just want to get those into essentially 2 categories: what's going with me, and then everything else. And so we first
Okay.
concentrate, because that's the overwhelming part for most people. They look at all this, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And we're like, nope, we want you to put blinders on. We're not looking at all the stuff. We're only going to worry about what are the things that you are going to need or desire to have with you once you move. And most of the time, if it's financially feasible, and we're helping people determine that as well, we usually are getting them fully moved and settled first in their next home. And then we're coming back to deal with everything else. And then there's another hierarchy for the stuff in terms of what items are the family going to take. So that's top of the decision list. So we go through anything and everything that is going to be taken by family. Then we look at, is there going to be enough for an estate sale? And estate sale people are not going to ever desire to look at a property until those decisions have been made of what the client is going to take with them. And then secondly, what the family is going to take with them. So those things must happen first. And then at that point, we determine, okay, does an estate sale make sense? Because sometimes we could do one, but at the end of the day, the value is in the house. It is, with few exceptions. I mean, certainly there are some exceptions, but real estate is usually the client's largest asset. And we have to look at the time that it's going to take to arrange for an estate sale. Estate sale people are often booked out months in advance. They have minimums of what they want to see for both the clients, good and their own. They don't want to have an estate sale that by the time the client pays to have the items removed that didn't sell, they're not going to be in the positive. So all of those things have to be factored in on how we're going to take care of the stuff. And other clients, we really emphasize the fact that you really don't have enough sellable items to benefit from an estate sale. And then we talk about what can be donated, what can't be donated. There are a lot of items these days that people paid very good money for that we can't even, that it's an absolute chore for us to be able to figure out what to do with that item. Grandfather clocks, pianos, large armoires, large pieces of furniture, dining room tables. I've had dining room tables that people have paid, thousands of dollars for at Ethan Allen with every, custom table cover and so forth that we can't get rid of.
Oh my gosh, listen, that is so funny because my mom has several pieces in her home and they were expensive pieces. And she's like, "Oh, Jenna, this is going to be worth so much money." I'm like, "No, it's not. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants it. Everyone wants like a cheap dining room table that their kids can color all over and they don't have to worry about it. Like no one's having formal dinner parties anymore. I mean, maybe you are, but like not really."
Yeah. Well, and that's the challenge, is really making people realize, like, yes, we understand that this is a beautiful piece. We're certainly not arguing that, but the fact is we've got to determine either it's going to serve you in your next place or not. And if it's not, then we have to figure out who's going to be able to take this item. And like pianos are a huge thing. Like I played piano for 8 years when I was younger. We had a piano. I love pianos. But I went on Facebook just a few days ago, and there was, I think I counted six
my gosh,
free pianos. And, because there are so many, we've got a lot of people that are downsizing out of these homes that they've been in for so many years. So there's simply an excess of all of these larger items. And younger people are living differently. Just like you say, we want different things. We're not doing those dinner parties. We're not investing in generally some of these larger pieces and the grandfather clocks and things like that. And so even the donation places, they can't take them because they don't have the capacity.
Yeah, like just as a plug for my generation, like we don't want your mom's grandmother's china. Like we don't want it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Maybe we have the space to store it, but we're not going to use it. Yeah, it's beautiful, but like I'm setting out paper plates for my guests because I don't want to clean up.
That's exactly. I have a 12-piece china set sitting in my garage right now, complete with a soup tureen.
Oh my gosh. Who puts their soup in those? Like, no, it doesn't keep it warm. You got to keep it on
No.
low on the stove.
Right. It's beautiful. But the same thing when my kids and I get together, my husband's grilling out, and we're usually using paper plates for the same reason. You know, no, I want to spend time with my kids. I don't want to spend time fussing with the cleanup of china, even though, would it be beautiful? Yes, it would. I'm just a little bit too lazy for that. I want to spend time on different things.
Same. So it sounds like you guys really do, again, just to reinforce, it's like a one-on-one coaching program, right? You take your client one step at a time and really help them to avoid the big picture and just see what the next necessary step is. So if you could say one thing to someone today who is maybe considering a future move, what is one thing you would tell them to do today to make their future move easier?
Well, I think that all the time, just for what we call a free home evaluation, where they can get a snapshot of, hey, let's talk about your house. Let's give you an idea of the value of your house, because just like a bank account or an investment account, that's how I look at people's homes. And that's how I believe people should look at their homes, that, listen, whether you stay or whether you leave at some point, you should be knowledgeable about the true value of your home. And if you were to sell it, what are all the costs involved in a real estate transaction? So they can be knowledgeable about, gosh, I've got these investments accounts, and not only this is what my house is truly worth, not the Zillow number, the real estate professional number who's been in there and walked around, and what are the things that might need to be done if I were to sell. Oh my gosh, I didn't think about the fact that, you know, my roof is 25 years old because it's not leaking. But the fact is, a buyer will immediately add the cost of a new roof if you were to sell that. So those are the types of things that we want to talk about, so that they're in a space of knowledge for the next step. So I always just want to emphasize, get educated, sit down with a professional, and start to develop relationships with what I call a tribe. So I always, in GR Savvy Seniors, talk about this idea of, you want to build a professional questions without a direct, connection to a business deal. So when somebody calls me with a real estate question, I'm not immediately assuming that they're ready to sell.
Yeah.
It's, I want to be there to be a resource. And that should be true for an attorney, a financial, person, different things like that you can build in, different people you can build into your life, so that as these questions come up, I would encourage everyone to have a big picture financial plan in place, a big picture legal plan in place, whether that's a will or a trust, whatever that looks like. I see horrible things that happen all the time because people either haven't done it, or they did it a while ago and it hasn't been updated. And so that, and then just a basic, knowledge of real estate and a future real estate plan, even if it's that plan B. So that's probably the biggest, thing that I would love people to do. And that idea of, I'm just going to leave this for my kids. I mean, sometimes I hear that.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
And I just really want to, I really try and be honest with those people of how strongly I feel about that, that thought, that there is almost not a transaction that goes by when I'm working with adult children that somebody's not breaking down and crying. Yeah. Because it is so overwhelming. And if people can take care and make these choices now, and that's really all they have to do. Most of it is just the emotional weight of making those choices. My team is there to help them carry out all of the choices. We're supporting them with being their hands and feet, and they just need to be able to point and decide, you know.
I love that. I love
But
that. So not only are you helping your clients in this, but you mentioned earlier about the importance of being educated, which is the perfect segue because you also run Grand Rapids Savvy Seniors,
Mhm.
which is awesome. So tell us a little bit about what Grand Rapids Savvy Seniors is and why you created it.
Yeah, well, it really started as just an educational series, and I started it now. It was over 7 years ago now,
Oh, that's
almost
wild.
8 years. Yeah, it's crazy when I really think about how long it's been. And fortunately, I was introduced way back in 2018 to an amazing organization out in Oklahoma called the Senior Real Estate Institute, and it was started by a couple called Chris and Nikki Buckaloo, who are just passionate about this idea of older adults being supported, understood what a late life transition looked like. So this wasn't about this, making money from a silver tsunami. It was about the fact that these people need people of integrity who know what they're talking about. And so the model of GR Savvy Seniors was really started in Oklahoma, and this couple has been an integral part of training up people across the United States to start their own series that is free, educational based. It's not sales based. It's simply an opportunity where adults can get a very safe place for them to learn about all of these different topics that are generally, they're going to come into contact with them one way or another through experiences that they go through, their friends go through, their family goes through. And so, starting out as this speaker series, and it really grew into more of a community where 10 times during the year. So we do it monthly, and it's consistently at Calvin University. We gather, and each discussion has a focus. So that schedule is planned about a year in advance, so people can see exactly what subject matter we're tackling. For instance, this coming month, we're going to be tackling wills, estates, and power of attorney. And I have the two panels. So, we get very distinguished and knowledgeable people that are professionals or community leaders. And sometimes those professionals on our panel are actually seniors who have gone through a certain experience. So I've had a fair amount of people on my panel that are just clients that are there to give a true statement of what does it look like to downsize? What are the emotions that you went through when you lost your spouse? Different things that are, I've been very, very fortunate to have people that are willing to share their stories, because that's what's most powerful to the people in that audience, is hearing from other adults where they can start to soak in this information, and they can also see people around them that are starting to accomplish things in their life that they didn't think they could. And that empowers them also. So I'll have people come up to me all the time and say, like, hey, Laura, guess what? I finally got my will done, or I finally got a trust done. And I've been putting this off for 6 years, or 5 years or whatever. Or I finally cleared out my basement, and I've been working with, Susie Marsh, the professional organizer, and she helped me make all these decisions that I didn't feel like I could make on myself, by myself. And so GR Savvy Seniors, even though it started really as just information, it's now grown into a community where I professionals and nonprofits that are part of it, that support us as an educational partner. And I feel that they're very like-minded in terms of, will they probably get business out of it someday? Yeah, maybe. But the focus has to be, if you don't believe in serving seniors and educating and empowering this whole demographic of people, you're not the right fit to be an educational partner, because we simply want to introduce people to these resources, encourage them to get to know them, so that when they do have a need, they've got a face, and they're like, oh my gosh, now I need to make a financial plan. Well, boy, I see Sherry Hooper every month, and her smiling face, ready to, give me helpful information. Or I have a question on my home insurance. Alistair Lynch of Farm Bureau has, all of that information. Those people are really there to assist with information first. And then hopefully when the clients, and attendees do have a need, that they'll feel like, gosh, we trust these businesses because we've come to know these businesses.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that you also do vet all of these people, and everybody that you have sitting on that stage are all people that you would personally use,
I
or
do.
you would recommend that your mom uses, or you would
Mhm.
recommend that I use, or that my parents use. Like, these aren't people you've randomly Googled and you haven't like blasted out to 18 different financial planners and said, hey, who's free on Tuesday, April, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, these
Right.
people have all been like vetted, they are well respected. And again, like you said, just to reinforce, like, they are all like-minded individuals that
Yes.
simply want people to age well and age
Mhm.
proactively.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to you to age well or age proactively?
Mhm. Well, I think one, aging on your own terms, and the idea of I'm just a huge proponent of being proactive so that you are driving your own bus. And by people being proactive in these plans, um, my hope for anybody that I meet is that they can get to a point where they're living in the place that they want to live safely for as long as they desire to live there, and that they have a support system in place, people they can call if they need more assistance, whether it be, home care companies and things like that, so that they feel empowered to stay where they are at, but that they have developed this plan so that honestly, they can just live with peace of mind that I have a plan for the future, so that and not only that, I've made this plan and I have shared it with those around me, and I've shared it with my loved ones, and we've even talked about things like not only what I'm going to do living wise and the people that I've chosen that I want to work with when the time comes. We've even talked about things like, hey, here are the how to get into my computer, and here are my passwords, and here's where everything is located, and here's the list of professionals who have my financial documentation, and here's my attorney, and here's the realtor that who's already familiar with my house that I've been in contact with for the last 3 years with various questions. This is who I want to use, so that families can work together when the time comes, and it just makes it so much easier and less stressful. And ultimately, that to me is what leads to quality of life, is taking care of some of those things that are really, adding stress to those decisions.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, this has been such an empowering conversation. And I think what really stands out is that downsizing is not about giving something up. It's about creating space for what's next. So if
It
you're
is.
listening today and you have been putting off this decision, take this as your sign to start exploring your options, because staying informed and proactive is one of the most powerful things you can do for your future. So Laura, where can people connect with you or learn more?
No. You're exactly right, Jenna. And I encourage everyone to come check out Savvy Seniors. They can go to grsavvyseniors.com to see our schedule. Our next presentation is going to be Tuesday, May 12th. It's always free. And just come check out what we have and just start learning. That's what I hope for people.
I love it. And I will put the link to all the information in the comment section of the post. But do people have to sign up for it for the session in May?
I really do encourage people to sign up, because we get a very good crowd and we want to make sure that we've got the the right amount of resources for them. But if somebody doesn't sign up, and we always encourage people to bring friends, there's generally extra space. So if somebody really feels strongly about not signing up and they just want to show up, we're not going to turn them away.
Yeah. And I'll be there in May I'm the coffee sponsor in May. So
Yay!
I'll be there
That's
slinging
awesome.
coffee to everybody who needs a little caffeine to get the party started.
Perfect. We can't wait to have you.
All right. Well, thanks, Laura, so much for this.
All right. Thank you, Jenna. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.